Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunnavadi Paschatya Desatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Ram. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravija Acharya, Astora Shishimat, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravija Acharya, Astora Shishimat, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananti Koti Vaishnav Vrindi Ki. Nam Acharya Salaridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Navadip Dham Ki. Gangamai Jamunamai ki. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi ki. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from the Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita, Volume 4. It's titled India, the Dancing White Elephants. I thought I'll read a little and we'll discuss the points as we move along. And if anybody wants to raise any question, bring that mic along with you. Keep that mic with you. So if you want to raise anything, just raise it and we'll have a discussion on Prabhupada's Lilamrita. Prabhupada saw all news coverage of the Krishna consciousness movement as an aid to propagating Krishna consciousness. Even by criticizing the Krishna consciousness movement, he said that the papers were broadcasting the holy name of Krishna, and Krishna's name was absolute. So it's quite interesting that that Prabhupada saw things very positively, even despite situations where criticism was leveled against the society. And he took advantage of the media at all times to preach Krishna consciousness, to give the holy name. So in this few lines that we read, Prabhupada saw all news coverage of the Krishna consciousness movement as an aid to propagating Krishna consciousness. Many years ago, maybe a few decades ago, we were doing a presentation of Bhagavad Gitas to the Department of Education here at the temple. I was in Srila Prabhupada's room, and quite a nice setting, and myself and another devotee, his name is Ramkinkar Prabhu, we both were working for the Department of Education, and we saw an opportunity to introduce in Hindu studies our Bhagavad Gita. So, at that time, there was the Minister of Education. His name was Vincent Zulu. He was the first Minister of Education in the new government. And so we wanted to get him to come. So Ramkinkar Prabhu, he worked for media services. That was his job. And he put a small article in the Natal Mercury. And we had a flood of calls from all different newspapers, the television, because we were trying to get hold of this person, the Minister of Education, because there was some problems with examinations at that time, and they couldn't get hold of him. So we had the entire media in Prabhupada's room, from Ilanga newspapers, the Post, the Leader, and even Rajbansi heard about it, they also came and stood in Prabhupada's room. So many people came, so many reporters, the radio, And then they all questioned the minister on some educational matters, but they covered our event, the handing over of some Bhagavad Gitas to the department. So, it was wise of Ramkinkar Prabhu to put it in the newspaper, and then so many people responded. It was just a small article, maybe about 3 to 4 lines, and so many people responded. Therefore, we should take advantage, like how Prabhupada says here. He saw the coverage of Krishna consciousness movement as an aid in propagating Krishna consciousness. So we should always look at different ways of propagating Krishna consciousness. And then there was a lady who was in Prabhupada's room, who was from the SABC, and I told her, we must focus on Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, and his books more than the other people. And somehow she listened, and when they shot it on television, on primetime news, they showed Prabhupada. Like so many times they were showing Prabhupada, and many times, and the books. And it was quite interesting. So we should look for different opportunities how to propagate Krishna consciousness. And then, in this when you unpack this few points we have here, and I was thinking more about it earlier on when I went to read up, the power of the holy name of Krishna. And Krishna's name is absolute. And we know that Krishna's name and Krishna is non-different. So that is one aspect, one point, one of the themes of the few lines that we read, and the absolute power in the name. Even when people criticize or speak against the movement, the holy name of Krishna remains powerful and transcendental. So here we see, Prabhupada's faith. No matter in what context the name is invoked, because it ultimately benefits the listener, bringing them closer to their spiritual awakening. We spoke about media as a tool for propagating Krishna consciousness, and turning, another point to note is turning criticism into a form of praise. Even when the media criticized the movement, Prabhupada saw it as an opportunity, because they were still mentioning Krishna's name. We were, when we did the first Phoenix Fair in Unit 13, you were coordinating that fair, the Child Welfare Fair. From a devotee's home, one devotee, Raghunath Prabhu. And it was probably the best fair that I ever attended at that time. Thousands of people, and we were distributing books and, giving prasadam. But every night, I think for a few nights, we had challenges in giving the holy name to the people there, because there were people of different faiths also there. And but one devotee suggested, no, we don't ask permission, we just go chant and we'll come back and then we'll apologize. It's easier to do that. So that's what we were doing. We would be chanting the holy names. But there was a group, I forget what they were called, but something about the light it was. There was a group. There was a group there in that. And we would chant the holy names. They didn't appreciate it so much. But they were propagating that you see the light within themselves or something to that effect. The Brahma Kumaris, eh? So yeah, they weren't appreciating us that much. And but we were chanting the holy names, we were giving the holy names. And despite their not appreciating it, they were getting some benefit from it anyway. They were getting some benefit. And so the lights went off at one point, and then they were calling, call the Brahma Kumaris, they can put the light on because they were, they were actually, propagating that you'll see light. Yeah. Well, also in Prabhupada's Lilamrita, there's where the devotees were saying that they were, whilst chanting, they were seeing the light. They were seeing some red light or something to that. And Prabhupada said, carry on chanting, it'll go away. Just carry on chanting, it'll go away. So we can use, different methods of propagating Krishna consciousness. And there was some African people there, and they were probably Muslims, and we were trying to get them to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. We were tricking them, we were holding the book, we'd say, do you know what this name, can you pronounce this name? But they knew. There was one person I remember specifically, he wouldn't say it. But on other occasions we were successful in other situations, like giving the holy name. I was also thinking how Prabhupada's, I'll just read it. Prabhupada's teaching emphasizes a transcendental detachment from the judgments of society. He did not take personal offense at the criticism of his own movements and teaching, because he understood that all material reactions were transient and external. And the focus was always on the ultimate spiritual goal, spreading the holy name of Krishna and advancing people on their path of spiritual liberation. There's so many things to talk about the holy name, but I was remembering Navayogendra Swami was saying how there was a Harinam contest in Mayapur once, and the best person, there were different groups, and the group that chant the best would be given some prizes. And it came to Prabhupada's attention, and Prabhupada was very displeased with that, because he said that is Nama Parad. And then they stopped the contest. And there was a Dandaviri Swami also, they were driving in Portland, somewhere in the States, and then they stopped at an intersection. And Prabhupada, he looked around, he saw some signs, enjoy Coca-Cola. Things go better with Coke. This was like there. Things go better with Coke, right? Yeah? Things go better with Coke, and drink Coca-Cola. So Prabhupada said them told the devotee to write a letter to the company and propose that they change the name of the drink to Hare Krishna. That's quite nice. And they keep the same drink, but the signs should be enjoy Hare Krishna, things go better with Hare Krishna. So it's very nice. So therefore we see how Prabhupada, he was saying that how Prabhupada tried to promote Krishna consciousness on a broad scale. Yeah. And he's using whatever methods were possible. But for us now, that's the outreach. But as you would say, we have to also, what about ourselves? This is for us. We're meant to also chant Hare Krishna. And our chanting, we have to do 16 rounds every day. Like once one leader was not chanting 16 rounds, and somebody complained to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, well, Arjuna was not chanting 16 rounds on the battlefield. But Prabhupada, knew that the devotee was complaining, and he said that the devotee was very busy doing some other services. But that doesn't mean, he said it just to kind of not offend that other devotee, not to talk bad about the other devotee, or teach the devotee who was complaining that, well, it's not good to complain. He said that, but doesn't mean that we are too busy, then we can't chant 16 rounds, because in other places he was very strong, and he said, if you can't chant 16 rounds, then you are an animal. You have to chant 16 rounds. We have to do our chanting. I just picked this up earlier on in the morning. Prabhupada gave different understanding depending on who he was talking to. He dealt with each of us personally. This is what Shrutikirti was saying. Shrutikirti Prabhu. When there was a devotee who was managing the temple and doing a lot of business, but who wasn't chanting his 16 rounds, Prabhupada said, what is the use of management if he's not chanting his 16 rounds? Also, for devotees, generally people who live in a temple shouldn't be doing business. That should be the principle. Because once you do business, you become duplicitous. Because it involves cheating. It involves making money. So, there Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments on that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That purport, the purport there is largely from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You can read about it, because it will disturb your chanting, because while you're chanting, what you'll be thinking of? How much profit will I make? If I sell this, what will I... how much will I make? So you'll be calculating, and you'll become you want to exploit others. So you won't be able to chant properly. So chanting is important, and for us also very important. Does anybody have any comments so far? Maharaj, would you like to say something? Anybody would like to say anything about the points that we're raising? Okay. Or I will read on a little bit more. Mr. Sixeria held a special program for many dignitaries of Bombay. Although he had expected no more than 200 persons, many more came. They were Bombay's Bombay's was I can't. I think it's like mixed up. The women dressed in expensive silk saris and wearing gold and jewels. The men in silk Nehru colored suits or white starched dhotis and kurtas. Prabhupada held kirtan with his disciples, and he spoke briefly and gravely. Yet, you are all very intelligent persons, he said. You are all very learned and educated. You are all very great persons. I beg you, I take the straw of the street between my teeth, and I beg you, just chant Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna. So you can see that chanting Hare Krishna is so important. And look at Prabhupada's humility. We also find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, both when Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, there was Sakra Malik and Dabir Khas, the way previously, how they approached Lord Chaitanya with a straw in their teeth. So that's a sign of humility. And great humility, these two brothers were such exalted devotees, and they were with such humility, they fell at the feet of Lord Chaitanya and approached Lord Chaitanya. But here you see Prabhupada also, he begins by acknowledging his the material accomplishments of his disciples. He says them, you're intelligent. He calls them very intelligent, very learned, and very great. So it's important to do that, is to give credit where it's due. If you don't do that, what will happen? What will happen? Ujjwala, if you don't give credit where it's due, you'll become envious. Yeah, envious. Yeah, you'll become envious. And it's important to recognize other people's capabilities. It's quite an important to do that. And also they feel good. You see somebody is very intelligent, they also feel very good. It's important to acknowledge people's capability. And you see Prabhupada saying his disciples were very intelligent. But at the same time, Prabhupada is pointing out that yes, you have this material education, but it must be directed towards spiritual purposes. That's also there. To use your intelligence in Krishna consciousness. We also see Prabhupada's, we mentioned that humility and surrender, which are striking features, it's a very important quality. Sri Radharanath ki. The straw of the street is like the symbol of the lowest humility, something that even a low person can, touch or do without shame. And that humility comes at a later stage, in Krishna consciousness. That verse we say in the morning, every morning, what do we say? Trinadapi Sunichena. What does it mean? Yeah. So that is, more on the level of when one reaches more the stage of Nishtha. That's like, you start developing those type of qualities. It's not that, immediately, maybe artificial, but as one is getting steady in his practices in devotional service, you start developing these qualities, humility. But Prabhupada gave a nice definition of humility in the Bhagavad Gita. What is it? The 13th chapter. Joy? Yeah. You're not looking for satisfaction by being honored by others. Humility. Like we may do something in Krishna consciousness, and we may look for attention also in different ways. And it's like, sometimes ladies may cook and they'll say, "How was it?" How is it? Well, Heather? Kind of, say, well, it was, nice or whatever. Some appreciation. It's true, right? Yeah. So humility, well, there's so many things to speak about that point, but we will move on, reading on. After his talk, Prabhupada left, and the devotees showed slides of the Hare Krishna movement's activities around the world. They also made their first public life membership appeal. And Mr. G.D. Somani, one of India's leading industrialists, as well as Mr. Seksaria, signed on as members. Although Prabhupada was happy to see the number of ISKCON life members increasing, that his shipment of books from Dai Nippon had not yet arrived made him anxious. The devotees were promising life members books, but where were these books? Every day the problem became more and more pronounced. Prabhupada learned of a Calcutta port strike. His books had apparently arrived, but the ship was unable to unload cargo into Calcutta. Had left the port. He worried that the ship would unload the books in some other Indian port. The exact whereabouts and conditions of the books, however, remained unknown. Prabhupada was greatly concerned. He decided to send a competent disciple, Tamal Krishna, to Calcutta to try and retrieve the books. Meanwhile, he would continue preaching, depending on Krishna. So here we find Prabhupada becoming anxious and, in anxiety about his books, showing certain emotions. It's not that a pure devotee is absent from emotions. Just like in Mumbai, there were theft going on. Anyway, it's incredible. When they were building the temple, and Prabhupada was somewhere in Africa, some part of Africa, and he was like, not eating, and he was in anxiety. And one disciple asked him why, and he said, well, how can I be, happy and eating when my materials are being stolen? So a pure devotee gets into anxiety over his property, but his property is always used in the Krishna consciousness, for the propagation of Krishna consciousness. He sees it as a whatever he gets, he uses it in Krishna's service, and he sees it as a property of Krishna to be used in his service. So he was in anxiety, and it's like, and somebody normally when they're in anxiety, it's quite like traumatic when people go into anxiety. So we see that Prabhupada was concerned about his books, which is also a means to propagate Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Like we used to distribute books at the amphitheater in Durban, where the first Durban Rath Yatra was held. And We had a box of books. We have maybe a few boxes of books, and another devotee, Rohini Nandan, he's busy cooking down there. Both of us, we would lay the books out. We didn't have a gazebo or something. We just lay the books out, and there were a lot of other small stores there around us, quite a lot, maybe a few, almost 100. And then sometime it started raining. We don't know what to do. We had a thick plastic. We'll be in anxiety. We'll start rushing, putting the plastic around the table, and we'd sit down. And then once it gets a little, when the rain eases off or slows down, then we open it again and we display our books. And sometimes it's very hot, and then one day one child came there and was attracted to Prabhupada's picture. But the child, put the hand on Prabhupada's book and said, "It's so hot." Then only we realized it's all these books, we got Prabhupada out there in the sun, and it's in the heat, and gave us this realization that this child had to inform us that we should get a gazebo or get some umbrella, So yes, the devotee uses everything in Krishna's service, and sometimes he may be in anxiety, but that anxiety is for Krishna. Any questions or comments? Okay, reading on. Amritsar. October 21st, 1970. Accompanied by a group of disciples, 7 men and 2 women, Prabhupada began the 2-day train ride from Bombay to Amritsar. Years ago, Prabhupada had traveled as a preacher in India alone, riding trains to Jhansi, Delhi, Kanpur, Calcutta, and Bombay to publish Back to Godhead and solicit support. After only 5 years in the West, he now had the great advantage of sincere disciples, and now the Indians were taking notice. He had stationed Achyutananda Swami, Jayapataka Swami, Hamsaduta, and others in Calcutta, Tamal Krishna, Shyam Sundar, and others in Bombay. His disciples would make life members and try to establish permanent ISKCON centers in 2 of India's major cities. His Krishna consciousness movement was beginning in India, and he wanted to travel with his disciples wherever there was an opportunity to preach, just as he had worked in America, never settling comfortably in one place, but always traveling, speaking about Krishna, meeting new people, and offering them devotional service. So he would also work in India. The train arrived at Kurukshetra station. Near here, said Prabhupada, Lord Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago. They say it does not exist, a mythological place. It is a symbol of the field of the body and the senses, they say. It is but here we are at the station. As he spoke, the sun was setting and a bright orange sky shone over the flat land. How can they say Kurukshetra is not a real place, he continued. Yea, it is before us, and it has been a historical place for a long, long time. When the train arrived at Amritsar station, members of the Vedanta Sammelan committee received Prabhupada and escorted him and his disciples to a park on the outskirts of the city. They showed him the large pandal the Niketan ashram had erected for the Vedanta Sammelan and assigned him and his disciples their quarters, 3 small rooms. Prabhupada took one room, the 2 women the second room, and 4 of the men crowded into the third, leaving 3 men to sleep outdoors on cots. The first night in the northern climate was cold. Available bedding was meager, and none of the devotees had brought warm clothing. At 4 the next morning, the devotees congregated in Srila Prabhupada's room for Mangal Arati and Kirtan before the deities of Radha and Krishna, the same deity who's been traveling with Prabhupada for the past 1.5 years. Despite the austere conditions, the devotees felt fortunate to have such intimate contact with Prabhupada and Radha Krishna. Prabhupada played mridanga, leading the chanting of praise to the spiritual master. Afterwards, he had the pujari distribute to each devotee a bit of the fruit and sweetmeats that had just been offered to the deities. It was before sunrise and the room was chilly. As the devotees sat huddled beneath a naked bulb, Prabhupada had them read aloud from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's quite, you can see all what we do in the morning. Prabhupada made them do the same things, although it was a different environment, not the temple. So we meant to do the same things wherever we go. You know, we should chant Hare Krishna, hear the Bhagavatam, like we do every morning, yeah. And that helps us to advance in Krishna consciousness. Any comments, Maharaj, you'd like to make? Anybody like to? Vibhu Prabhu? Jai? Okay. I'll read along a little bit more. There was a nice aspect of the Yamuna Devi is in the... are we coming to that? Any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I could read a little bit more. Would you like to say anything? Okay. I could read more. Questions? Would you like to add anything? Okay, all right. Yeah, read a little bit more. The same morning, Prabhupada attended the Vedanta Sammelan. There were thousands of people in the audience, and since most of them did not understand English, Prabhupada spoke in Hindi. His presentation pleased everyone, and the committee members honored him by making him the president of the Vedanta Sammelan. So yes, yeah, in India, you know, Hindi is the official language, but many people speak English now. At that time, probably not. But sometimes Prabhupada, in his when there was a large gathering of Hindus, he also spoke in English. He spoke in English because he was mainly speaking for his disciples. So it depends, you know, who you're targeting in the audience. When we're speaking, also, like how Prabhupada did it, he was more focusing on his disciples and not the mass. And it's important to know how we're going to preach. Are we preaching to the mass, or are we going to preach to class? There's 2 things we have to focus on, whether it's mass or class. You know, Prabhupada also wanted to reach the upper echelons in society. He wanted university students to take to this process, and the intelligent class. But mass, like, you know, for us, you know, we have to focus on mass probably. You know, Prasadam, Harinam, that way of preaching. So you can see Prabhupada is speaking in Hindi. But at other times he also, when there were large gatherings, he spoke in English. Although the program was scheduled only for several hours in the morning and evening, Prabhupada did not limit his preaching to these times. He preached every hour of the day. While he sat in his room, a constant stream of guests came to him, hundreds of pious Hindus seeking his blessings. Recognizing this vestige of Vedic culture, he pointed out to his disciple, "Just see," he said, "how they treat a saintly person." Prabhupada also began receiving the usual flood of invitation to visit the homes of Hindu families. He accepted as many invitations as possible, more than possible, it seemed to his disciples. Prabhupada moved quickly. When the cars were ready, he would come out of his room and go, leaving behind anyone who wasn't ready. After each engagement, he would get into his car and go directly to the next. Latecomers would sometimes find he had already left. They would then jump into their bicycle rickshaws and try to catch him. A wrong direction or a missed turn might take them miss the next engagement, and when at last they would catch up, they would find Prabhupada coolly, gravely in the midst of a lecture in Bhagavad Gita, or laughing and taking prasadam with his host. So yeah, preaching, we should try to preach as much as possible. But also we shouldn't have, we should know what to say to people also. It mustn't just be a stream of consciousness, just whatever comes in your mind, you just start talking. Like sometimes, when you take new devotees to the university, they start talking about Mahaprasad, the deities, they're talking all different things, So these people don't know these things. It's also important to know who you're speaking to and what you have to give them, and what they can digest also. Sometimes you could just say a few lines and be effective. It's important to know your audience or the person that you're speaking to, so you can have maximum effect. Like we go to the universities on a regular basis, at least twice a week or thrice a week. And Madhurya, myself and other devotees. And we have such a difficulty to get people in a room. Madhurya, it's so difficult to catch them, Really difficult. And we have to just tell them, some one-liners or something and interest them. And sometimes we talk to them for such a long time and we're thinking that they're going to come for our program, but they have no interest in our program. But there was one girl who came for our program. I invited her, and she got interested in a few minutes, and she came to the University of Durban, Westville, and she came with a computer, and she started, I was thinking what this girl is doing. She's, we are speaking, and she's capturing everything, what we're speaking, very interested. Then we started asking her questions, and I must tell you, this girl was just such a deep thinker. Very deeply attracted to spiritual life. So I thought she'll come the following week, but she didn't come. Then I phoned her, and then she didn't respond. So after a few weeks, she told me that, and then I sent her Bhakti Tita Maharaj's clip from the opening of the temple. He's speaking. And she really appreciated it. And then she told me that day when you met me, that day the lecturer didn't come. That's why she couldn't come for our future programs, but she was quite an amazing person. So yes, we have to preach all the time, to whoever we meet. Like even people walking in here, so many people walk in here, they're interested in Krishna consciousness. And why will they come here? There's so many people I met here and became devotees, just here in the property here, taking to spiritual life. So, yeah, okay. Any comments? We have 5 minutes if you want to ask any questions or comments. There's a microphone, yeah. Yes, Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Early on you were speaking about the holy name.
Yeah.
How powerful, how potent the holy name is. So I was just remembering this article. There was a front page article discrediting the Hare Krishnas, and they were very concerned. The disciples went to Prabhupada and said, this is... So Prabhupada read the article and he counted, Krishna's name is mentioned 19 times here. So how is it that it's negative? It's you assure them that this is fine. Yeah, Krishna's name is mentioned 19 times in that, although from one side it seems like very negative, but Prabhupada saw the positive side.
Positive in it, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Then the other incident which was a famous incident, in the 70s when Prabhupada, the early formative years of ISKCON, even in India there was the Western disciples, and somehow there was a movie made discrediting it was like called Hare Krishna, Dhammaredam. And so whenever the devotees went on the street on Sankirtan, people would mock them, even the children would
I'll show them the pipe.
chilam, smoking ganja and chanting Hare Krishna. So the devotees went to Prabhupada and said, this is very disturbing. And Prabhupada said, don't worry, in time they will forget Dhammaredam, they will remember
Hare Krishna, Hare Ram.
Yes.
Yeah, it is in a movie, yeah. I think maybe Devanand was acting in it. Yeah, it's a movie, yeah. Thank you for that, yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Anybody else would like to comment? Maharaj, would like to say something now? The holy name, yes, sir. There.
Hey Krishna Prabhu, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but I wanted to say thank you to... You remember Ratha Yatra when we came here and we picked you up, and I was looking for one devotee who came to our school and gave us SSR.
Yeah.
Well, actually that devotee is His Holiness Bhakti
Bhagavad Maharaj.
Swami, and I'd like to offer my gratitude to him.
Yes, yeah. Bhakti Bhagavad Maharaj distributed a lot of books, Science of Self-Realization to schools, colleges, thousands and thousands of copies. So yes, thank you, Maharaj. Yeah. Yes, she want to say something? Give the mic to her. Oh. You want to say something?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Just recently, within our movement, a new concept is evolving, pointing towards African preaching, which now requires of us who has got the capability to translate some of the smaller books into African languages, predominantly spoken languages in our black communities.
Yeah, what language is this?
Come up again, sir.
What language you're referring to? What African language?
I'm speaking Setswana.
Tswana.
Yes. Where I'm coming from, Mafikeng, if you remember, it is the Istwal Buputatswana, which meant that the majority of the people there are Setswana speaking, and it's predominantly rural. But then rural people are entrenched in tribal faith practices,
I'm aware of that.
including ancestral worship.
Yes.
Yes. Now, how do we get to assist them in chanting the holy name Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare? How will it assist them in, I like the English word, in elevating them to understanding the supremacy of the holy name over tribal practices? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for that. Well, I've been traveling around KZN and many other places, even up different places, even in other parts of Africa, even in Namibia. There's this tribal kind of, they believe in ancestral worship, but we also show them that we also follow some sort of, worship of ancestors also. Amongst even Indian people, is that they also. But I don't know how, whether the ability to understand the translations, because sometimes when we translated these books, it was of such a high, level that the African people couldn't understand it. We had that challenge. And we printed, Vibu was a president here, we printed over 40,000 of those books, Zulu books. And we got a sponsor, and we were giving it out to, African people. They would throw it, read it, and throw it, and then we had to pick it up. So I don't know if it's necessary to give them books in the first place. And it may not be. You have to figure that out, whether it will be advisable to give them books. It may not be, depending on their level of understanding of the books. But then we also had good reports also. Like one person came to the Durban Ratha Yatra this year, and he was from KwaMashu. And he read one of the translations done by Akhanda Prabhu, which is of a very high level of Zulu. And that person, when he's translating it, it's like we know it's almost exactly from what Prabhupada said. And he became a devotee. He became a devotee. Just completely attracted to it. He cut his hair off, and he got closer to Nikunja Vihar, and he was cultivating him and helping him. So there are, so books are, for certain people it will work, for certain people it may not work, for certain communities, depending on the type of people. But it will be better to give them prasadam and give them the holy name. Then they'll become purified, then they'll become receptive to the philosophy. So that may be there. But you there with Jai Gopal and all that. Is Jai Gopal there in Mafeking?
Haribo, Jai Gopal is in Mafikeng and Narotama. Narotama is in Klerksdorp.
Okay, right.
Yes, but I work closely with Narotama in Klerksdorp.
Okay, I'll speak to
Yes,
him.
we do distribute prasadam and raise some funds and chant to the people at their level, try to explain to them.
Maybe we can print up simpler pamphlets of the philosophy, paraphrasing it for them to understand it. That can also be arranged. I could speak to him, but I can help him on it.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay. Rami, like say anything? We were schooling together. We're from the same area, When I saw you, it reminded me of one of my friends. His name was Krishna. You know Krishna? You know who I'm talking about? Yeah, one person lived between us and them. His name was Krishna. It's quite a... He was also, anyway, he got locked up for theft and things like that. So he thought he could steal and like Krishna, but it's not the same, yeah. Nice to see you. You're chanting Hare Krishna? Great. Wonderful. Hare Krishna. Okay, so thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.